they're going to kill me, man, because everybody likes buzzwords, right? And for a few years, we've been talking, oh, AI this and AI that, right? And everybody got excited about it, but nobody really knew what it was. And then when you did figure out what it was too expensive to do, right? What I like now is that we're seeing this shift in the industry from front end AI of like chatbots and stuff like that to agent influenced AI. Like AI being used on the back end to help agents, specialists, reps, whatever you call them, deliver a better customer experience. So one that was really cool because it could figure out what your best agents were doing on calls and say, okay, so Susie's my best agent. Susie does this. And then when Jane's on the phone, it could listen to the phone call and it would hear some things and it would tell Jane, hey, you know what? Susie would ask this right now. It's in the screen, it's in scripting. So it's listening to the call and then prompting the agent to go to certain places within the CRM, even prompting them with questions to ask and even doing some deductive reasoning. Like it was listening to one call where the person was asking about tires and it could tell that there was an auto claim placed like a week earlier. So it kind of deduced that the person must be trying to figure out if tires are covered in the claim that they're filing and presented that information for the agent to take that conversational track.
Wow.
I kind of like stuff like that. Like anything that makes it easier for agents to deliver better customer experience, man, is awesome. I think we're seeing some real changes.
You're listening to
What the Tech.
Welcome to the What the Tech podcast, where we talk about business and office technology and put our 20 years of expertise to discussing trends and issues impacting the workplace.
This podcast is brought to you by Global Tech Worldwide, your technology office experts that's been around for 20 years, providing trusted, personalized office IT solutions. Check them out at amazon.com/TECK. That's amazon.com/TECK. And welcome to What the Tech. I am Rolando.
And I'm Dave.
And we are your co-hosts for the podcast, What the Tech, where we talk to business and tech influencers to gain their insights in today's evolving business world.
But before we jump into today's guests, we want to give big props to a few people out there. Rolando, I'm going to grab the mic. I'm grabbing the mic.
Right. Go for those big props, baby.
Listen, really big props to Braden Dixon and Courtney Cox over at ScanSource, and also our guys over at Zoom, Clark Courier and Mike Dury. Listen, you four are instrumental in our success in 2023. Thank you so much for the support, bringing us up to speed this year. We're going to have an amazing year ahead of us. So thank you all for your support here at Global Tech. We really appreciate you.
Woohoo, Dave. Let's give them a little bit more clapping.
And hey, listen, we haven't had any of those folks on our podcast yet, but listen, if you want to go check out some of our previous podcasts, we do uploads weekly. You can listen to a bunch of awesome episodes out there on our website, circuitloops.com.
All right. Today, we've got somebody that special is not even the right word for this guest that's coming on today. He's beyond special. It's Brandon Knight, currently global head channel customer experience over at Zoom. Zoom is that company. It just keeps growing. And I wanted to have him on today to talk about several things. But let me tell you a little bit more about Brandon. He's responsible for ensuring a positive experience for Zoom's contact center customers, especially when it comes with using its channel partners. In addition to that, Brandon is also co-founder and board member of Xposure Inclusion and Diversity Council. That's a big deal onto itself. And Brandon has held several high-level positions in organizations such as Serenova, Telarus, and Telarus. And I met him a couple years ago at a trade show. Very charismatic guy. He's got a really good vision on the channel, on the industry. And I want to tap him for his insights on where we're going in terms of the next couple of years. So welcome to the show, Brandon Knight.
Thank you.
Hey, Brandon, good to see you. Where are you checking in from today?
I'm actually in Southern Florida, down in Miami right now.
Hey, 305.
Exactly.
Man,
If
You
there was
know
one
me.
place I would rather be, it would definitely be Miami right now.
Yeah. So you guys are hail a little bit from a town. I don't even know if you noticed. I lived in Reston and Herndon for a little bit.
Ah,
I did not know that. That's exactly where our headquarters is at, is in Reston. Yeah,
Yes.
no, it's a little growing area, man. Reston has been on the map mostly for defense stuff,
Yeah.
but over the last couple of years, IT has been really hot. Cybersecurity, obviously, the defense sector is never going away, but it's been a little mini hotbed. We used to have years ago a thing called AOL right
Yeah,
over here.
exactly.
Not the same company, but it spawned a lot of other smaller companies around during its heyday. Yeah, Reston. No, big props to Reston.
Hey, listen, and before we jump into it, we just got to pay some bills. Quick read from our sponsor. Still paying for slow, outdated business internet? Why would you do that? Everything is so expensive in 2022. But listen, you might not realize you can go to circuitloops.com, instant quotes, to easily compare with what you're paying for and find the upgrade that's right for you. It's that easy. Go to circuitloops.com.
So let's jump right into it, Brandon, because I want to ask you today, of all the things that are going on, the first thing I want to know is, what are you nerding out on or totally geeking out on from a tech standpoint?
Oh, wow. From a tech standpoint, for me right now, it has to be the fact that, and they're going to kill me, man, because everybody likes buzzwords, right? And for a few years, we've been talking, oh, AI this and AI that, right? And then we saw it in chat, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And everybody got excited about it, but nobody really knew what it was. And then when you did figure out what it was too expensive to do, right? What I like now is that we're seeing this shift in the industry from front end AI of like chatbots and stuff like that to agent influenced AI. Like AI being used on the back end to help agents, specialists, reps, whatever you call them, deliver a better customer experience. So one that was really cool because it could figure out what your best agents were doing on calls. I listen to calls and say, okay, so Susie's my best agent. Susie does this. And then when Jane's on the phone, it could listen to the phone call and it would hear some things and it would tell Jane, hey, you know what? Susie would ask this right now. Or
Really?
Susie would have figured out that this person is talking about this
And
claim.
is that sending it to the ear, or is it picking it up on the screen and giving that to the agent?
It's in the screen. It's in scripting. So it's listening to the call
Nice.
and then prompting the agent to go to certain places within the CRM, even prompting them with questions to ask, and even doing some deductive reasoning. Like it was listening to one call where the person was asking about tires, and it could tell that there was an auto claim placed like a week earlier. So it kind of deduced that the person must be trying to figure out if tires are covered in the claim that they're filing, and presented that information for the agent to take that conversational track.
Wow,
I kind of like
that's
stuff like that. Like
so
anything that
solid.
makes it easier for agents to deliver better customer experience, man, it is awesome. I think we're seeing some real changes there.
Huge time saver. Huge time saver. I'll tell you, from a customer standpoint, what do we say around here? Well, I know minutes matter. Listen, if I can get off
seconds
of
matter.
seconds matter. If I can get off of that phone call, if the agent knows what I need, they can anticipate my needs, they can just take care of the situation at hand in less time. That's great. And I'll tell you, from a call center manager's point of view, the old school way is saying, hey, John, have you listened to Gail? I want you to spend 45 minutes. I want you to listen to what Gail says and sit with her and make her feel uncomfortable and be right up next to her after lunch. And even though you've just had a tuna fish sandwich, and I want you to just be real uncomfortable and personal with this person and get to know her and listen to what she's saying. This is like that peer-to-peer mentorship without having to be uncomfortably close to someone that's new on your team. That's pretty awesome AI right there. I like that. I can see the applications.
Yeah, I like to see stuff like that.
And I would imagine that if we just use that as a jumping point, the companies that are going to deploy this, I can only imagine not just the savings, but the advantages that you could gain from that customer experience. Because if you have a happy customer, because a lot of folks that call in whatever 800 number, either support or service or tech that they need, they're maybe a little standoffish or angry. But if you can solve that on that first call without having, oh, I got to take you to level 2 or level 3 or call you back, you have the first call response, first interaction is able to solve the problem, you're going to be happier. And I would imagine customers will let others know, hey, I got this fixed with using blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And that's what they're looking for, right? We figured out back in the old days, when I was coming up, they used to say you had to wow your customer, right? You have to exceed their expectations. And I think what we've learned through various studies over the years recently is that customer might not necessarily be looking to be wowed and overwhelmed. What they want is they want easy, simple, fast. I want you to answer the phone if I call you, know who I am, resolve my issue, get me off the
Right.
phone. Or I want to go to your website, but chat, however I want to do it. I just want it to be simple. I want it to be easy. And that's what people are finding out. And to your point, man, you're talking about not having to call somebody back or transfer them or look in 4 different systems because everything's disparate. That's huge. Those seconds turn into minutes, and we all know in this space, man, minutes is money.
Minutes and even seconds, right? I know
Yeah.
that there's a lot of call centers. We worked with one of the large telcos, I'll say, and they're measuring their agents by the seconds. Anything that can improve the performance in the way they measure their agents, minutes on the call, seconds, it all adds up because they know down to the second how much each interaction costs. So if an AI type of implementation or other things will help those agents shave that conversation down and resolve it from the first moment,
Right.
they know that multiplied times 1,000 people, those
Exactly.
seconds mean dollars and cents.
Big time. Yeah. And one of the things we would ask a call center manager, say it's an inbound sales call center, if each agent can take just one more phone call a day, what does that mean? And Rolando was just saying, they do have it down. They know every call equals X amount of revenue. So
Absolutely.
if you have 500 reps, if they can all take one more call, you can let them do the math. And then that's a perfect
Yeah.
way to come in with your solution that's going to free them up to allow them to do that.
Yeah. And let's face it, man, a lot of people aren't talking openly about this, right? Because they don't like the term recession or downsizing or whatever. The fact of the matter is businesses are faced with having to do more with less. And we
Right.
all know that in the contact center space, your greatest asset is also your most expensive asset. So things like that, and also the technology that we see on the front end used to be IVRs where, push 1 for sales, push 2 for
Yes.
what, right? Now we're seeing real algorithms, real conversational AI, real routing. And the more you can get people to do self-service, keep those mundane, repetitive things in an automated environment, then again, your agents are available to answer more quickly, get on the phone, get off of it, and hopefully have more information by the time the call gets to them as well. So I think it all plays together. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it's being pushed a little bit by the economy that we have and the need to do more.
I want to ask you about that with interactions. So the interaction that people are having today are in 2022 going into 2023, it's not the same kind of interaction back in the early 2000s and late 90s where probably everything was phone heavy, right? There was
Mhm.
not a lot of self-serve. Would you say even though the volume, or maybe tell me I'm wrong, the volume of calls to call centers are going down, the importance of the interaction has become even that much more? Is there a premium on that interaction versus 20 years ago when you just knew everything was phone based?
100%. 100%. Because before we had demographics, we had a group of people that were, I'm going to call. I may even expect to sit on hold for a little bit. As long as it's not too much, I'm okay with it. And when they answer the phone, I'm going to explain why I called because they have no idea, right? You contrast that to now where we are information heavy, man. We've got
Mm.
data everywhere. We have got access to data everywhere. People research things. They go to your website first. We have an entire group of consumers that are interacting that way. So yeah, I forgot what the number was, but it was something like 75 or 7% of the people try to resolve their issue nowadays without having to call you. So that means if I do have to call you, premium is the right word, man. Premium is the right word because now I'm like, hey, I didn't want to have to do this, but I did it. So help me. This is real.
Let me ask you something because I don't spend as much time on the support side or even calling up places, but on the chances that I do have to call, we do a lot of stuff with Amazon and a lot of work with them. And sometimes that takes me into talking with folks on their side as well as some of the larger companies. And boy, I got to tell you, when I get somebody on the phone and they are not empowered to take action on the problem, it is so frustrating. I wanted to ask you about that because at Zoom, you're dealing with obviously some of the largest enterprises around, are they seeing the contact center space as a place to resolve that and to empower those agents to resolve that? Or are you still finding that it's the case that companies say, this is an offshore call center, we got some tools from them, but they don't have the authority to really resolve some of these things, and we'll let that happen back at the home office?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think what you're finding is, and this is not to call anyone out, but I think the companies that are truly focused on a customer-centric environment have figured out that frontline agent, specialist, rep is the face and voice of their company, and you need to give them access to all the tools. Unfortunately, we still have a large number of companies that are hierarchy driven. We still have companies that are afraid to give agents access to certain pieces of information. It's mind boggling a little bit, but we do. We still have companies that the agent can only have access to this and this area over here, whether it might be financial or it might be detail. We still have this term in a lot of contact centers where they're talking about, we're going to escalate the call,
Yeah.
and we'll allow that person to then go to somebody or then go to this tier or then go to that tier. Now, we do have some that are doing it for financial reasons. Like we have a client in the insurance space where agents need to be licensed, right? So a licensed agent is expensive. So they do intake with a non-licensed person just to qualify the call, and then they'll transfer it to. So in some instances, I get it, but all too often, there are things that an agent should be able to resolve when you call in. I'll give you a perfect one. I had to call my credit card company because, like a lot of people these days, security, I'm traveling, they flag something, it could be potential fraud, so call in, right? Now, they text me, hey, we didn't approve this because we're not sure it's you. So you reached out to me, perfect. I hit the link in the thing, it goes back in, it allows me to call. So now I call into their contact center. First, I answer the phone, I validate who I am, right? Give them my PIN, blah, blah, blah. And she says, why are you calling? And I told her, like, hey, there's a potential fraud thing. She says, okay, I need to get you over to that department. Now, there's so many things wrong with that. Okay. The number I clicked was in the text that you sent me. Okay. So, come on, man. Exactly. Come on, man.
And then when it does, and then when you
Oh.
get to that next level, sometimes you have to start all over. Why are you
Yep.
calling in? Well,
Exactly.
and then you're like, did you guys, I mean, you're $1 billion organization and I have to tell you again, my name, my number, my account number, my PIN. That is
Oh,
the most frustrating thing in my household. You can always tell when someone is like, if my wife has to call the cable company and then it gets escalated, she tells them how she feels. So I just told the first agent and now I have to tell the second agent my entire life story again, just to get this back. I find that some of the companies that I'm doing business with, they haven't implemented the right technology and they're just making us waste a lot of extra time that I think if they had the right things in place, that we wouldn't have to be doing that.
absolutely. Absolutely. They don't have the right technology. Some of them don't even have the right mindset. I was consulting a company earlier in the year, and we were talking about the technology so that the data would pass. Because in this case, they did need to transfer to a specialized department. We said, well, you want to send the data. They're like, we're not really ready to do that. We'll look at that at a later date. And I said, okay, but at the very least, there should be a warm transfer. Because what they did is they had the general agent dropping the call into a queue
Oh
for
my
another
God.
agent. So of
Oh
course,
my God.
wait, and I had to tell them, I said, guys, you are creating pissed offness, creating it unnecessarily. I said, at least if you don't have the technology, at least let the agent warm transfer, tell you the customer's name and what they're calling about.
And
And
what's stopping Brandon? What's stopping an organization from making that leap? Is it that it's comfortable to do it this way? Because that's the way we've been doing it for the last 7, maybe 8 years versus I don't know if the technology would actually work. Is it a technology question that's being imposed and being the barrier, or is it the people and the inertia behind that?
it's actually a lack of you, sir. Companies that are trying to do this without a partner. I'm just going to be
Mm.
straight. Because when I was running a contact center, and I ran contact centers as small as 100 people, I ran contact centers where I had 5 of them under me, and each of them had 1,500 agents in them. Okay.
Wow.
Contact center leaders, they're in a free fall pretty much all day. And everything we do is an adaptation of the existing tools, the existing processes, the existing company culture. And I'm doing everything I can to keep my head above water. So if
Mm.
I don't have someone else who's an expert say to me, hey, and when I remember when I was doing that, and I ran some successful businesses, we made money and we had good customers, but I didn't know what I didn't know. never thought beyond, is there a different way to do this? That was the
Is
way they
it
were.
the job, Brandon, that you're in? Is it insulated? Are you like insulated from the outside world and
Yeah,
that information never gets in? And so that's the bubble you're living in? And as a
absolutely.
contact center manager or leader?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have the time to do research or to look and see what else might be out there. And so, yeah, you're living in a bubble. And it's also contact center leaders and contact center people. Some people call us crazy because it's a niche, right? If you're successful in a contact center, people think you're crazy because most
You
people
know
look
what? Was at a really large contact center that one of their managers said, "We're like a jail around here. If you say something to Susie, you bet it's gonna get on the other side and everybody else is gonna know about it over there really quickly before lunchtime."
yes, yes,
It is, and I wanted to confer to see if that was a mentality that you had seen
oh,
as well
it's
in
the real
frontline in the call center.
It's the real deal. I can tell you from running a contact center, even where I would walk into one of my locations that have 1,500 agents in it, there were 3 people in there that how those 3 people were going is how the business was going. If you wanted to know what was happening, that's
Really?
happening. And there were many gangs too, because you were either on the side on
You get
oh,
shanked.
oh, yeah, you were exactly. Don't get caught in the lunchroom when your crew's not in there, man. But you don't be in at the wrong side.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It sounds like you said you have similar, I would call it hand-to-hand combat stories
Oh,
about
yeah.
working in a contact center. And for a lot of folks, it's a way to start their career. For some folks, they make a long career out of it. But what I want to ask you, because there's going to be folks listening to this that are in our industry, they're trying to talk to that guy. That's why I was asking you, or that gal who's in charge of the contact center, and they want to consult or bring a new solution and you can't ever get a hold of them. What would you say a tip? Give us our first pro tip of today.
Get ready for a pro tip.
Brandon, tell us what is the right approach that folks that are trying to bring that information to a contact center leader, how could you best receive that? Because you were on that side of the equation.
Yes. And I'll do a real life example for you because I will tell you when I did respond, because before this, I was the person, premises-based contact center, my equipment's down the hall. I could walk down there, do punch downs. And if you talk to me about the cloud or something different, I'm not even going to show you what my response was. But I was in that change is when someone brought me benchmark or best practices. I actually received an email that had a data report in it that actually mattered. Not a frivolous, hey, did you know this? But in my industry, it was what were customers saying about my company versus my competitors.
Love that.
Another time I responded, someone shared a report, and I was in the insurance industry. Someone shared a report of average handle time. Back then, that the KPIs were different than what we do
Yep.
now. But someone shared a report of average handle time of the top 10 insurance carriers. That mattered to me, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get the attention of the decision making in the contact center space, bring them data, bring them information. It is a commodity when you're operating.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. We talk to folks that are in the contact space. We have folks buying our products that are in the contact space. And sometimes trying to elevate that conversation, it's very transactional. It's really quick, but getting that, like you said, I want to talk to them about the cloud. And I
Yeah.
want to talk, where are they going? What's the roadmap? And I know you're using old technology, just like you talked about, Brandon. And I know because I called your 800 number and it transferred me to another department 3 times and I was on hold 20 minutes. I know there's a conversation about technology, but how can I get that in there so that we can get that on the roadmap?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying FOMO works for those leaders, letting them, because
Mm,
they do function in a bubble and they function in a silo. If you give them a picture of the outside world that could impact them, it works.
I've worked with some sales professionals that are selling to the contact center, and I've heard this approach where they will call into the call center as a customer, and they're taking notes on what the experience is. How much are they waiting? Do they have to repeat themselves? Is the audio quality bad? Is there a lot of noise in their environment? Different things like that. And then they keep record of that. And then they reapproach one of the decision makers and they'll say, I visited your call center today, and this was my experience of that call center. What do you think about an approach like that when they're trying to get the attention of that call center decision maker? They want to have a conversation about the cloud or some AI or different applications. Would it turn you off if someone was to have posed as a customer so that they could get an idea of the experience and then bringing that up? I visited your call center today and this is what I experienced, and then bad things. What's your opinion on an approach like that?
Actually, Dave, I think you probably could have done that as pro tip number 2, because I'll be honest with you, I did that. When I was a contact center person and I learned about what the channel was and I wanted to be an agent. And of course, when you start off, you don't really have customers or anything like that. So I'm trying to give this to you quick because this is literally, truthfully, how I built my agency, how I built my
All right,
business.
hold on a second.
Here comes a pro tip.
Brandon, lay on us pro tip numero dos for today.
Here it is, off of what Dave talked about, call the business. I built a agency doing just this. I'd make one phone call and I would pretend I had the product, whatever it was. I didn't have it, but I pretended that I wanted to get it. How could I get it? How does it work? Take copious notes on who you talk to, what the interaction was like. Wait about 3 days later, 4 days later, I call back. Now I have the product and it doesn't work. I want to find out, what do they do in a crisis situation? Did they replace the product? What kind of troubleshooting they have? Do I have to get escalated? Can they resolve the issue? It's broke. I'm frustrated. I wait a few more days. I call back the third time. The third call is a fun call. It doesn't matter what you talk about. It's not what you talk about. It's the transition you're going to make at the end of that phone call. 90% of contact centers have what they call pay for performance. So agents get rewarded for having good quality calls along with attendance and other things. So after I finish this phone call, at the end, I would be like, hey, Jane, you were really great. I'm pretty sure you guys have some type of reward program or somebody I could talk to about the amazing level of service you provided me today. What do you think Jane did? Jane transferred me to the manager or the director or whoever, a person in an authority position to talk to. When that person got on the phone, they said, hey, Mr. Knight, I understand you want to talk to me about the great service you had. I said, I was actually, Mr. Smith, I don't even want to talk to you about the great service I had today, but I want to talk to you about the interaction I had with Jim on Monday and Susie on Thursday, and then Jane today. And because I'm actually a customer experience expert myself, I wanted to share some things with you that I think went well and some things I think were a little challenging that probably could have gone better. Would you be open to that conversation?
That is freaking amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. Dave,
What's a business?
are you
that way?
taking notes? I'm taking copious notes as we speak. This is the man.
Rolanda, you were just looking for a reason to use that word copious again.
I love it. I love it. This is some serious knowledge. Wow. I'm taking that page out of that playbook because I'm going to try. I know I've done that, but not to that extent. You just raised that to like another level. Hey, Susie was great. And Susie, you know what? I'd love to let somebody know who's keeping track of this for you. And let them know personally, not like just an email. Let me talk to them. And if they can take you up to a manager level, then now you're like, you got a toe in the door.
Exactly. That's it. You get a toe in the door, man. And the rest is up to us. We got to
Right.
be able to take it from there.
That's right. No, I love that. The other thing that I really want to ask you, because you're at a company right now that's at the forefront of remote working, both from with what they're expanding with Zoom Phone, with obviously the contact center space, but as a whole, what are you hearing? Where's this going? That you hear about the resistance from some management, middle management, some upper management, some organizations like Yelp, where they've embraced it 100%. They're completely remote. Where are we right now with this whole thing?
You actually called where we are. We are seeing companies that realize it's a great thing. And then we're also seeing some companies that are having trouble letting go of control. Let's call it what it is, right? We have a lot of companies that, hey, listen, you remember when we thought COVID was going to be over in the summertime, right? So we just in a rush, right? As soon as it got hot, COVID was
Yep.
going to go, right? So we had companies that just sent people home. They didn't really have good setups and stuff like that. They were like, just go home and you'll be back in a little while. Now, over the last year, we had companies making that more permanent because they figured out a couple things. One is many of their agents went home and were actually still successful. All those fears they had about not being able to stand over the agent were gone because the agents went home, they did their job, they were happier. There's less attrition because they're not going anywhere. There's less tardiness because they're already home. Just became an amazing experience for people. And I think we're seeing that. But then you're also seeing those people that want control and they're not happy that they can't get to that agent. They can't interact that way. But for guys like us, it's actually a good thing because a lot of companies are turning to technology to replace what used to be collaboration, what used to be camaraderie and the conversations at the water cooler. Now they're looking for technology to do that. So it has created another opportunity for us, quite frankly.
Yeah, for sure. Now, is it still possible to still satisfy your customer base when your employees are working remotely?
It's really funny. You can, but you have to lead your employees differently. I'm just talking human being right now, Dave. You have the same agents that were in the contact center that were responsible and accountable, answered the phone when they were supposed to, said what they were supposed to, came back from break when they were supposed to, came back from lunch when they were supposed to, and worked until the last bell and then went home. That person's fine at home. But we all know in the contact center space, you also have the agents that are perennially late, leaving early, taking 30-minute breaks at a 15-minute break, that person you still have, they're home now. So now you can't say, hey, they're not, you can't look down the aisle and see they're not there. You know what I mean? So that's a little different. And if they disappear from their workstation and they're not on camera, what are you going to do? You're not going to their house. You can ping them in the chat, but that's about it. So you do have to manage it a little differently to make sure the customer has a good experience. I won't tell you the company that I called, but I was joking with my wife because I called a company on Saturday and no one can tell me that woman, I woke her up. My phone call was alarming to her. Okay.
Oh, no.
And she woke up and she stumbled through the first minute and a half before she got her bearings and figured out what she was supposed to be doing. So you're going to run into that a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah, your inbound call of the day should never be your alarm call. When do you start tomorrow? Whenever someone calls. That shouldn't be the way to go.
What's in the future? What's in the headlights here over at, I want to ask you about Zoom specifically for those folks that follow Zoom and want to know there's a lot cooking there. What's in the near future that is going to surprise folks?
Wow. I'll tell you one thing that's in the near future. I don't know if it'll surprise folks, but I'll give you one that might surprise folks. The one that I don't think is going to surprise folks is that the commitment we have to changing this space. Zoom was a meetings event company and we hung our hat on that. We went into the phone and now we're adding contact center. We have IQ, we have ZVA, which is the virtual agent, right? And putting all that on one place will change how people do business. It'll change business to business interactions. It'll change customer interactions. Those of us that have run contact centers, man, you know what it's like to have to take an agent who's used to seeing an aux code and get them new technology and tell them, well, now idle. That you've lost time, so that I think is one thing that we're doing that's major. Every new thing we have is still in the same UI. So if you know how to use the One Zoom platform, you know how to use everything we have.
That's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
If you have less frustrated agents, you can have a more seamless experience. The operation can run smoother. Training is much easier. I would imagine that there are folks that are using this platform today that were like, where was this when I was a up and coming agent or up and coming team leader?
Yeah, they are because it's easy. And I'll tell you something and I'm going to own this because it even surprised me. I have been pleasantly surprised by the number of businesses that are catching on or advocates for video calls in the contact center. I will tell you as a person that ran a contact center, I was all for you talking to them, texting them, emailing them. I didn't want you to see it. I'm not going to lie. I did not want you to see them. Okay. I didn't want you to do it. And so I thought coming into the contact center space, like that's not going to be a big deal. But what I've seen from the customers that are taking that aspect of our technology, because we allow the customer to escalate to a video call as opposed, in addition to an audio call.
And how's that worked out? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, because I'm seeing applications of it that I did not think of ahead of time. For instance, one of the big applications of it is I can't say them, but like a cable company. Okay.
Yep.
Who's used to, you usually call and you say, hey, I got this box, I got these wires, but something's not working. Usually on a regular call, that person is saying, what's on your screen? Tell me when it reboots. Did you plug into that? What's a video call? They're just looking at it themselves and explaining to you what to do. So that was different. And another customer who is it's an airlines, and they have field technicians out at airports, but they have a location in Miami where they have master technicians. And a field technician may call the master for something, but they're explaining to them what's going on in the engine or the panel. They don't do that anymore. Now they call in, it's a video call. They're looking at the same panel together, and the master tech can talk the field tech through what they're doing. So I think the thing that's going to surprise a lot of people in this space is that there are applications, there are opportunities. Of course, we know telehealth. We know in
Right.
those cases, person would rather see person. But what surprised me, and I think will surprise a lot of people, is customers are demanding, when given the choice, they're choosing video more often than I think anybody thought. And then I explained it to a group last week. They said, why is that or how is that? I said, I can explain this to you really easy because we do this every day.
Okay.
Everybody that has one of these, you decide based on who you're about to interact with, whether you're going to text them, call them, or FaceTime them. Every human being does that. And,
Right.
and you're deciding that based on what's a quick interaction. I text it. I don't need to see them or talk to them. If I want to talk to them just to hear their voice, I want to. But if it's something where I want the experience, I want the body language experience, or I want to show them something, I'm going to FaceTime them.
Get-
Consumers are
that-
just individuals.
Yeah, we're visuals, and especially if you've got anything like you said, if you're doing troubleshooting or a tech support or anything where it requires more than a sentence, that's actually something that I say in our if it requires more than 2 sentences, I'd rather you send me a video. We use video internally a lot. Let's do video or send a video or record a video so it doesn't get lost in translation. It doesn't get misjudged.
That's
It's
smart.
exactly what you're looking for and exactly what I need to do for you.
Yeah, that is really smart. And
Yeah.
that's genius, man. It's good that you guys have that as a process. And I will tell you, from what we're finding, there are a lot of consumers that feel the same way. They don't want to, if I'm explaining to you how I feel, I'm sick, I'm not doing well, or how to apply a certain medication, or how to fix something that I purchased from you. Yeah, that face to face is important. And
Rolando probably says this 10 times a week. He says, show people, don't tell people, show them. Don't just tell them. Use video. And I'll tell you, since the beginning of the pandemic, we're excited just because video has just been adopted and it's just been sped up. People are now more comfortable with it. Our team, our sales and customer service team, has actually been adopting video. We sell headsets and speaker phones and cameras, and sometimes people are looking for support, but they don't necessarily speak the same language that we speak. I'm not saying English versus Spanish. I'm saying
I get it.
technical versus non-technical. So we're able to FaceTime or use video and say, just bring that camera over. Let me show you what ports you need to be connecting into. And even older demographics, they've been adopting video. I think the younger folks, they're more apt to turn on their camera. But what our folks are excited about is that regardless of the age demographic, people are happy to use video. It solves their problems faster. What my salespeople say is it also builds the rapport so much faster. Now they're repeat customers. Now they're coming back for more because they see that what do they say? We're eating dog food that we sell, something to that.
yeah, but we're eating dog food.
Right. So they're more than happy to come back and do business with us because we're not just selling a SKU that we don't necessarily know how to set up and fix. We don't send a user manual and say, fix it yourself. We say, come on board, talk to Sheila. Sheila's an expert and she can walk you through everything, including with video. And it's definitely made more positive customer experiences for the people that do business with us.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny that you said they speak a different language. One of the funniest clips, I don't remember who had it, this is years ago. I listened to a phone call where a tech support agent is repeatedly telling the woman to plug in her HDMI cable. And to us, that's okay, sure, let's do that. To her, you may as well have been telling her to park her car on the moon. Could not grasp it. And then the tech guy is trying to explain what an HDMI cable looks like.
How would you do that?
He's trying to, he's like the trapezoid. He's like trying to figure out the right geographical shape of it. You know what I mean? It's mind-boggling. But that was one of the funniest videos that I saw. But it's right. We speak a different language, and sometimes we assume that. But how much easier would it be if you could show them, if you could see it?
Yeah, for sure.
No, I like that. Like I said, I've been taking some copious notes, some things that we're going to we're going to improve here. And I can't imagine why. I know what it's like for our organization when something comes up and we're like, that's not working. Okay, how do we make that better? Versus that's not working. Let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I would imagine you're limited because of your budget. Your budget may not allow that.
Mhm.
But I would imagine that, especially when we're talking enterprises, if this thing we do is going to lead not to only to one tangible benefit, but multiple, then I would ask, pro tip, how does a leader that's part of the contact center, and let's help out our contact center team managers and leaders here for a moment, how can they best position that requisition to upgrade, to improve, so that the C-level folks that are essentially going to just sign on the dotted line so that can get done, how can they best do that?
Okay. I got you. It's the best way to do that first is to be a little bit uncomfortable, and because you have to understand it from that C-level person's perspective, right? If you're the contact center manager, you're already focused on the importance of what it means for your agents. You want them to be happy and comfortable, have the tools they need to do their
Mhm.
job. If you already understand the impact of customer experience, and so you get that. And the natural thing for you is you want to go tell somebody, hey, the customers will be happier or agents will be happier. And while those are good moral things, that doesn't always translate to a bottom line to someone in the C-level. So instead, there are things that you can do like retention. Everyone knows that retaining customers is cheaper than acquiring new customers, right? You can prove those through net promoter score. If you're not doing it, you should be doing it. A customer effort score. If you're not doing it, you should be doing it, because those are statistical numbers that can translate to dollar values. A customer who stays with you, it's easy to show a business, a customer that stays with you, the amount they spend month to month, year to year, and therefore show their dollar value, and then show the cost of what we call the cost of loss, right? There are numerous studies that will show you. I think the most common ones say 86% of people state that they will leave a company after 2 bad experiences.
Oof.
Okay. So I would say you show the C-level something that matters to them, which is the bottom line impact. Show them the dollar impact. And I will tell you that works as long it works even when you don't have a CEO that is focused on the right experience. And I'm going to bring it back to Zoom real quick because I want to tell you a story real quick.
Yep,
It's
for
really one of
sure.
it's really one of the reasons why I wanted to be there. For those of you that don't know Eric Yuan, our CEO and founder, he founded Zoom simply because the customers he was working with at WebEx were unhappy.
It was unwieldy. I've seen something about that where he was like, it was just horrible to use.
Yeah, it was horrible to use. And I'm not saying anything out of school. This is his story. It's on
Yeah,
video.
it's public. It's public information.
It's public information. He went to them and said, hey, the customers aren't happy. We need to do something different. And the response he got at that time was, we're not as concerned with the customers being happy because they're buying our product hand over fist because we're the only ones that do what we do. So why are you trying to rock the boat? And he left and he built an entire organization just based on happiness. And I know it sounds corny, but you walk into our headquarters, it's painted on the wall. The word happiness, it's real.
Happiness.
It is a culture that we drive. And I think not just because it's a good thing, it does impact the bottom line. Happy employees create happy customers stay with you and they pay more. And then you get things like when Zoom decides they want to do more than meetings, they're going to introduce a phone product. No problem. The customers, you know what? I already got meetings, I already got events. I love Zoom. Give me the phone. Done. That's it.
It comes in easier, not even a sell. I wouldn't even use the right word, adopt, right?
Yes.
If you've got a line extension, the phone product, like a call center product, makes that transition much easier.
It does. It's very easy. Right now we have, I want to say, I think it's 94% of our contact center customers are Zoom phone customers or Zoom. Like they have Zoom already. They have something from us already. And they adopted it because what we said before is easy. If you're already using the phone, you're already using meetings, you already have the platform. I just add an icon that when you refresh, you're not talking shutting down, training, saying, refresh your internet connection, right? Just hit the browser, that thing. And now contact center icon is right there for you.
I love it. I love it. Brandon, you have shared so much today. We got to have you on again because there's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to talk to you about that, and we're running out of time, and I can't because I know your time is precious today. But is there anything else that you want to leave us with that's on your mind that you want to talk about?
Wow, we talked about a lot. The only thing I would say is to any contact center leaders that are out there who haven't done this already, I encourage you to embrace the change. I understand as someone who has been in the contact center space, I've been in the space almost a little bit more than 30 years now. And I will tell you, I was the premises-based guy. I went through the transformation. I was the guy when we were rewarding agents with casual days, and now they're home in their pajamas all the time, right? Embrace the change. Allow your business to adapt, allow your agents to adapt, lead them differently, and the reward is tremendous. Progressive contact center companies are doing extremely well in this environment, and you should be one of them.
Well said, Brandon. That is food for thought. And hopefully more leaders are paying attention because I don't think people want to stay home for no reason. Their lives are enriched. They don't have to drive an hour in each direction. They can spend time with their loved ones or cared for somebody that's not well or their little ones and improve their quality of life. And like you said, happy workers, happy employees means happy customers. So why not embrace the change of remote working, letting agents work from home, do their best so that they can provide the best for their employers?
Well said. You nailed it.
Well, today we've been talking to Brandon Knight. He is super guru when it comes to the call center space. And if you've enjoyed this episode of What the Tech podcast, I invite you to go check out Tim Ash, author of Unleash Your Primal Brain. Talk about a guy that knows about the neuropsychology of selling. Tim Ash is one of those super geniuses about that. You'll find that episode on circuitloops.com, as well as other past guests that come on the show. So I want to thank Brandon Knight for coming on today, and we will see you in those other episodes.
Thanks for listening to What the Tech. Be sure to check out our other episodes featuring awesome tech and amazing guests. Find them on circuitloops.com or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts.